royal cook came to visit me, but he's not the cook. He's not in order. Here's the cook. I picked them up and spilled them, but I was not at home. And you just go through adding the pieces on. So it's a very easy story to do. That works real well with flannel stories, to keep adding on, or to add on and then take off. A flannel story that doesn't work well is one where you're putting it on, taking it off, putting that piece on, 2 minutes later, taking it off, putting something else on, taking another piece off. A story that goes like that is not a good candidate for a flannel story. Well, at the end, on the last day, the little boy is there, and he's just inside the door, and I was home. Okay, and so these pieces are just covered. Now, I'll show you what they look like. I could have just as easily, if this hadn't worked, I looked at the book and realized I could do it with just tearing one book apart. But when I Xeroxed it, the pictures came out really nicely. So these can just be colored. Now, when you color them, I use Pellon when I do any coloring. So I would take these pictures and either tape this sheet up on a window or lay it on an overhead projector and put medium weight Pellon. Pellon's that material that's in the collars. I don't sew, so someone had to tell me what it was. In the collars and interfacing, thank you. And you can copy on it. And I use Sharpie permanent black pens for my outlines, and then I colored it in with the crayon. So you have to get, but I get the book because I want it to look just like the book. Yes? I would lay this picture down so light was coming through it and put the Pellon on top of it. This is if I didn't have those pictures from the particular book. You can trace right on the Pellon. It comes in 3 weights. I use medium weight because that is the best weight to work with, and I'll have some Pellon pieces here in just a couple minutes. And so you can make a similar story just like what I showed you, just by using crayons and Pellon instead of using the actual pictures. Now, this book, all the animals were angry. It was a very unusual book, and we had 2 copies of it, and they became discarded at the library, and I used them for making this story. It's the only story that I know for young children that deals with the dove of peace, and that's the reason why I did it. And it's done the same way. I have taken those pieces and covered them, okay? But they could just be done from a Xerox copy, and there is no coloring. So if you do that, you don't need the book. I've never ever seen the book any other place, but a copy of the story is with those patterns. And I like the story so much because it has to do with a lot of fighting. I'll just read you the very beginning of the text. It was a hot day in the jungle. The animals had nothing to do. The lion was angry. He walked over to the turtle and said, "I hate you because you're so slow." And then the turtle, goes over and he's angry, and each animal puts his anger on the next, and they don't like some attribute of that particular animal. And then the dove of peace comes along, and the dove of peace says, "I love you because sometimes it's good to be loud." He says that to the lion, for instance. Then Pardon said the giraffe is a story that I would set up before I did it, as opposed to let me put these 2 books down, as opposed to we'll just go like this. We'll just overlap here a little bit. Okay. And it's just a very simple story. And this was done with Pellon. Okay. The pictures in this particular book, and the book is here someplace. Here it is. Were the right size, okay, to put the Pellon directly onto the page and copy it. Okay. And so you can see that my colors, I've tried to be, let's see, because they used watercolors, see, you can tell I use this lion, because as some kids have pointed out to me, this lion is more yellow than that lion, okay? And, but the frog is asking, what's it like up there? And the giraffe keeps saying, pardon. And so he jumps on to the lion and he asks, and pardon, and so on and so forth. And when he gets right up here to the giraffe sneezes. And then the giraffe asks him, what's it like down there? Okay? Just a very simple story, but one that you can lay out beforehand. And I have a couple others that are like that with me also. Sharpie, S-H-A-R-P-I-E. I use black for the outline. It gets a little yellow with age, but they are quite fine and they're permanent and they don't bleed. It's real hard to work with. I only use felt for something that felt looks terrific with, okay, that the original book had real bright, bold colors like the felt. Otherwise, I use the Pellon because I can make the colors more like the original illustrations. And the Sharpie really lets you put in a lot of detail. The other thing is when you use felt and you draw on the felt bleeds a lot. And of course, you get different qualities and so on and so forth. But it's real irritating to be drawing a thin line and have these sort of spidery things going off of it. Pardon, said the giraffe. Okay, Humbug Witch is next. Okay, this is another example of having something on the board before, and we'll see if I can slide this on because this is sort of crucial. This has to be done before the kids come to class, okay? There, Humbug Witch by Balin. This is the story, okay? She is missing her red stringy hair, which is made out of floss, which has been separated, so all the little strands hang down there, little curly. Her hair got lost at the last workshop, and I didn't realize till I opened it up now. So imagine her red stringy hair is hanging down here, okay? And all it is I take the floss and I unwrap it in it, and then I just have a little piece of tape holding it, and the tape, and it's just under there, because it comes off, because that's where it belongs. So. Okay. And Humbug Witch, this is my cheat sheet, okay? And here are the patterns. And she's trying all this magic, and she tries all these different things. She has her cat, and she has her magic broom, and she's working on making this magic potion, and she adds things to it like a jar of pickles, and milk, and honey, and my apple. Kids don't mind you're piling it up here. You know, who cares if it disappears? An egg, including the shell. And she is trying to make it so she can have some magic. And she just can't get any magic. So she finally decided, let's see what she said. It was just no use. She stood her good sturdy broom in the corner and she took off her funny-looking black shoes with the gold buckles. She took off her plaid apron. She took off her black knitted wool shawl. She took off her tall, pointy black hat. She took off her orange gloves. She took off her mask, her red stringy hair. See, came off. She took off her mask. And then she went to bed, and so did Fred. And most kids are amazed. You know, it's a girl, you know, she's just like us. I first made her of Pellon, okay? Mistake. You can't put Pellon on Pellon, okay? You have to put Pellon on felt. There has to be some nap for it to stay. Well, the Pellon girl looks much nicer, but I can't help it. The pieces won't stay on her. So you give up a little something. But so she's felt, and then the pieces are Pellon that are on top of her. called Halloween, and it's by Reese, R-E-E-S-E. It's by Reading Associates. It's a little tiny book. It's called an underwater book. I mean, you know, it's got sort of rubberized pages. And it's just a short poem. Walking home is not much fun on Halloween day. On Halloween night when day is done. Spiders. Woo. Ghosts. And flying bats. Pumpkins. Monsters. And black cats. Whoops. Horrid things. And scary witches. Make me run and split my britches. Now I sit, afraid to run, for fear my pants will come undone. Halloween night. Walking home is sure no fun on Halloween night when day is done. This was not a great colored board to do this particular one. I do like a black board for most of the things. It really makes the pieces show. I have, you can make a pillow slip out of flannel, just like a pillow, and slip it over your board if you only have one. And so I have a couple light boards also that have just a light blue background so that when something's real dark like this, I can use it. Though I prefer most things on a black board. I just think they show better. Yeah. Okay, let's do one more Halloween thing, and this one we'll stand up and do, okay? The little old lady was not afraid of anything. You don't have to stand up right away, but soon. Once upon a time, there was a little old lady who was not afraid of anything. One windy afternoon, the little old lady left her cottage and went for a walk in the forest to collect her herbs, spices, and nuts and seeds. She walked so long and so far that it started to get dark. There was only a sliver of moon shining through the night. The little old lady started to walk home. Suddenly, she stopped. Right in the middle of the path were two big shoes, and the shoes went clomp, clomp. Okay, everybody up, because we're going to have a break right after this anyway. Okay? Okay, so we'll just do this together. And the shoes went clomp, clomp. Get out of my way, you two big shoes. I'm not afraid of you, said the little old lady. On she walked down the path, but behind her she could hear two shoes go clomp, clomp. A little further on, the little old lady stumbled into a pair of pants, and the pants went wiggle, wiggle. Okay? Wiggle, wiggle. Get out of my way, you pair of pants. I'm not afraid of you, said the little old lady, and she walked on. But she could hear her, behind her, two shoes go clomp, clomp. One pair of pants go wiggle, wiggle. Further still, the little old lady bumped into a shirt, and the shirt went shake, shake. Shake, shake. Get out of my way, you silly shirt. I'm not afraid of you, said the little old lady, and on she walked. A little bit faster, but behind her she could hear two shoes go clomp, clomp. One pair of pants go wiggle, wiggle. One shirt go shake, shake. A little ways on, the little old lady came upon two white gloves and a tall black hat. And the gloves went clap, clap, and the hat went nod, nod. Get out of my way, you two white gloves and you tall black hat. I'm not afraid of you, she said. And on she walked, just a little bit faster, but behind her she could hear two shoes go clomp, clomp. One pair of pants go wiggle, wiggle. One shirt go shake, shake. Two gloves go clap, clap. One hat go nod, nod. By now, the little old lady was walking at quite a fast pace. She was very near her cottage when she was startled by a very huge, very orange, very scary pumpkin head. And the head went, boo, boo. Can you do that? Boo, boo. Okay. This time, the little old lady did not stop to talk. She did not stop at all. She ran. And behind her, she could hear two shoes go clomp, clomp. One pair of pants go wiggle, wiggle. One shirt go shake, shake. Two gloves go clap, clap. One hat go nod, nod. And one very scary pumpkin head go boo, boo. The little old lady did not look back. She ran as fast as she could. She didn't stop to catch her breath until she was safe inside the cottage with the door knocked. She sat in her chair by the fire and she rocked and she rocked. It was so quiet in her cottage before the on the door. Should she answer it? Well, she was not afraid of anything. She went to the door and she opened it. And you know what she saw? 2 shoes go clomp, clomp. 1 pair of pants go wiggle, wiggle. 1 shirt go shake, shake. 2 gloves go clap, clap. 1 head go nod, nod. 1 scary pumpkin head go boo, boo. I'm not afraid of you, said the little old lady bravely. What do you want anyway? We've come to scare you. You can't scare me, said the little old lady. Then what's to become of us? The pumpkin head suddenly looked unhappy. I have an idea, and the little old lady whispered in the pumpkin's ear. The pumpkin nodded his head, and his face seemed to brighten. The little old lady said goodnight, closed the door, I'm hurrying quickly here, and whistled on her way. Next morning she woke up early. She went to her window, looked out in her garden, and what do you think she saw? 2 shoes go clomp, clomp. 1 pair of pants go wiggle, wiggle. 1 shirt go shake, shake. 1 up. 2 gloves go clap, clap. 1 hat go nod, nod. And 1 scary pumpkin head go boo, boo, and scare all the crows away. This is from Bill Martin's Brown Bear, Brown Bear. What do you see? And I did it. It is not on your list, okay? But I threw it in here because it is felt. And I left my book in my drawer back at work, but if you looked at the back page that folds up and has all the animals, that's the page that I got these pieces from. And this is an example. I wanted to show this because you really need to make some decisions about how much time you're willing to spend putting these pieces together. And so as I tell the story, wherever the brown bear is, he starts off first. I know he's first, and then the yellow duck and the red bird. They're out of order, but it really doesn't matter. This one took about 5 hours, and you can tell because it's all laid on pieces of felt to get the different colors. And some things like this take more time, but I knew I'd get a lot of mileage out of it. The only thing that really is altered from the book is with the fish, which the fish is gold in the book. It says a gold fish, but every time, and I showed them, it says like, brown bear, what do you, or let's say red bird, what do you see? I see yellow, and then all the pieces are in my lap, duck looking at me, and then I would do the same thing because they're all in my lap, the white dog, and so on and so forth. And every time I held the fish up, they all said orange. So I added the sprinkles on it so that they'd say gold fish, okay? And so sometimes you change things like that. But this took me about 5 hours of hard work. But something like, you know, one of the flip card things, like the snow, you can make that in 15, 20 minutes and stuff like that. You need to think about how much time and money you're going to put into it. Some of the things I'm going to get onto in just a minute are a little more expensive and stuff. One of them, the very one at the end, Poppy the Panda, I spent $30 putting that story together, but I have used that story 100 times, okay? It has been worth the investment. But you need to think about the time that it takes to put something together and how you're going to do it, okay, how it fits more appropriate. Is it better for a flip card? Is it better for felt? Does it work better with Pellon? And how much it's going to cost you. A lot of the stuff I get at a Salvation store, the Salvation Army secondhand store. That's where most of the Poppy the Panda pieces come from, except for he himself. And but like the little bear that's standing there, all those clothes I bought at Kmart, you know, and then I just sewed them down, and I just waited till there was a sale on baby clothes. They're just 3-month-old clothes, stuff that were sort of tailor-made. But so this is just an example. So Brown Bear by Bill Martin is not on your list, but it is an especially effective flannel presentation. I have 10 Bears in the Bed, which is a traditional story, and so this is really this bed and stuff is made up. I have several of the different stories listed there, and it's taken from several of the stories, and I put together this piece with the kid in the bed and the little bear and so on. And for the bears, I used bear stickers when stickers were real popular, and you can still get stickers, and they're great. I have quite a few stories where I use stickers, and they have felt on the back of them, and I just pile 10 bears on the bed with him, and then just do, there were 10 in the bed and the little one said, and each one sort of rolls over and falls out until we have this pile of 10 bears all over the floor. Okay, so you can use, you know, this is not creative. This is, I don't know how it happens, you know. You're just thinking, gosh, I'd like to use this. Oh, yeah, stickers. That's how I'll get bears. Okay, and then the next one is stone soup, of which there are many versions. And here I would need a light color board again, of course, but there's my cauldron. Oh, and I didn't even realize this. On my easel at the library, I have a ledge. Didn't dawn on me this one didn't have a ledge. And so I pile all my wood up for a fire. Okay, and none of my wood is long enough to go across this. So I have this under my cauldron, okay? And then I add my flames, and we talk about what kind of things go in it, you know? And so they tell me, you know, and we have peas, and let's put an onion there, and whatever, you know, is going in there, a tomato, and just put all that stuff in. And we stir it up, and then of course you need a little salt and pepper for tasting, you know, and just whatever. I mean, it's a little different, but kids love it. They're fascinated by it, and it really didn't take any particular talent. It's just a combination of things, and I think that's really one of the things. You have to let yourself be real open and think about what can you do. Don't feel like, oh, this is a flannel story. I'm making a flannel story now. All these pieces need to be flannel. They don't need to be. They can be any combination of things that work. And that's what's kind of interesting. It lets you be as creative as you actually want to be. There are some golden rules about making stories like this, and that is never share pieces between stories. If you have two stories that have a lot of fruit and vegetables. For instance, I have a Christmas story called Christmas Countdown, and instead of counting sheep and stuff, this kid counts bananas and so on and so forth. And so I have like little balloons where he's thinking, where he's counting 1 tomato, 2 apples, and so on. I couldn't use those pieces of fruit in here, because as soon as you do and you pick up the other one, the pieces you need are in the wrong envelope. If you have stories and you have pigs in 3 stories, there are 3 different pigs, 1 in each envelope. Okay, you just can't let yourself start sharing pieces. It's not worth the aggravation later on. Okay, so that's one thing. And the other thing is to, as I was saying before, is really to think about the mode in which you're going to make this and how long it's going to take you. It's silly to decide you're going to do a story and you're not really in love with it, but it's just perfect for this thing that I'm doing, and you may be using it once and you think, my God, it's going to take me 10 hours to do. And some of the stories may take you 10 hours, but if you're going to use it over and over again, and you're going to let kids have hands-on experiences and use this stuff, I mean, they can't break this stuff, then you need to, you know, decide, okay, that's a good investment of time. Okay, monkey face. This story this format for the story was originally done by a student of ours in children's literature who did Eric Carle's Mixed Up Chameleon. So you may be interested in that. The story is Monkey Face by Frank Ash. And I often read through the whole book first and do it with the book and then do these pieces separately. And you'll see that in some stories I do a little further. I actually start reading the book and then I go into the objects, into the props. Okay, let's start at the beginning. One day at school, Monkey painted a picture of his mother. On his way home, he stopped to show it to his friend Owl. Nice picture, said Owl, but you've made her eyes too small. Now, instead of the picture, I have this, okay? You've made the eyes too small. How's that? Asked Monkey. Let's see, where am I? Much better, said Owl, because on the back of it I have all my words, okay? When Monkey saw Rabbit sunning himself, he held the picture up and said, how do you like the picture of my mother? It's just right, except for the ears are a bit too short. How's that? Well, big improvement, said Rabbit. Monkey went on a little bit further and he found his friend Alligator sunning herself. He said, what do you think of the picture of my mother? Nice picture, except for the mouth is too little. Okay, so you go on and he meets the elephant. And the lion. That would be very attractive. Now look, I can't see my text anymore, right? So the rest of the text is on the ears. Okay, and in fact, on the copy of this that is upstairs on the pattern, it has where the text is written. It has the back side of the thing. And his friend Giraffe. Okay. And I always use the book at the end. So let's say I had done it. And so he gets home and he shows his mother's picture. How do you like it? I love it, she said. Just the way it is, he asked. Just the way it is, said his mother. And she hung it on the refrigerator for all to see. See? And then you can get into a discussion about, let's look at the animals in the picture now. Now, who had Monkey change the ears, And so for little kids, they can, if they've forgotten, it gives them help. Oh, yeah, the rabbit, okay. For older kids, you don't need to do that, Let them think about this. Oh, yeah, well, let's see. Those are rabbit ears, whatever. Okay, and so the mixed-up chameleon was done the same way. This is cardboard, which has two walls. There's tri-wall and dual wall cardboard. And it just has, a piece of paper on either side and the corrugation in between, okay? And then I chopped up popsicle sticks, okay, and ran popsicle sticks down where I needed it. Oh, I keep wanting to do that with a poor lion. Okay, down the way I want it to go. I did the same thing in this piece, and then I glued it. I put glue in the hole and ran this one up so it stayed put. But on the piece where it goes, there is a little piece showing me exactly the angle that it goes in, because I'm behind it. And so I want to be able to see that it goes right down there. Okay. Now, I also see that when I put the ear in, that this is where the ear goes, so that I don't have to keep looking at it, and I don't have to be fumbling. I know exactly how it's going to slip in. And I also, and the mixed-up chameleon did that real well. This is all felt, okay? And I didn't think of it. It was one of our students in Children's Lit, and I thought it was a great idea. The Mouse's Marriage is an example of a story that I've done that's a scene. And another story that works well like this is in the great green room, there was a picture. Thank you. Good night, moon. Okay, which I have as a scene. Now, this is a scene for the Mouse's Marriage. See, I forget I used this little trough on my thing. Here's a ginkgo tree, I think, and the parent mice and the little girl mice. And they are quite old, and they want to find someone to marry their daughter. Okay, this is my crib sheet, and I've highlighted the different pieces as I put them on, so I know when the pieces go. So they go, and this is a shortened version. They ask the son, "Oh, son, you're the mightiest. Will you marry our daughter?" But just then, some clouds come and cover up the sun. So the parents think, well, the cloud must be more mighty than the sun. So they ask the clouds if they'll marry your daughter. Then the wind comes along, and they ask the wind, but the wind blows up against the wall, and the wall stops them, stops the wind. And so they look at the wall, and suddenly there's this crack. And the mice are working on their homes in the wall. And then they realize that truly the mice are the mightiest of all. So they ask this mouse if he'll marry their beautiful daughter. Okay, just a simple Japanese folk tale. This is just that core board stuff again, where you can get in art stores, and I use it for a lot of stuff. I'll just show you a couple of the illustrations. Like here's the wind and the wall. I always show the book. I think that I don't have any problem with copyright because I use the book. The book came first, and I just try to reproduce it as an extension. I am not replacing the book. Also with copyright, if you are not charging admission and you're not selling stuff, you know, copies of it and so on and so forth, then you're okay. You can use it just under free use, but you can't charge and so on and so forth. But yeah, I really want kids to know that the book came first. I do that with movies too. Gosh, you know, this movie, The Remarkable Riderless Tricycle, was such a good book that they made it into a movie, okay? Because so many kids, everything's a movie. I mean, you know, you got to make the book connection instead. Now, using foam board, this is Arthur's nose. And I've just made this little self-stand because I was using it. I've been doing this program on the senses and going out and doing a different sense each time out at daycare centers and so on. And so with Arthur's nose, I always started by reading it, okay? Reading the book, because it was boring for young kids to hear it just get told or just without something, because there's not much going on in the beginning. This is Arthur. He's worried about his nose. I skipped the first page. This is Arthur's mom. This is Arthur's dad. This is Arthur's sister. They all love Arthur, and they all like his nose. One day, Arthur decided he didn't like his nose. He had a cold, and his nose was red, and he thought his nose looked funny. His nose was a nuisance at school. Francine, who sat in front of Arthur, complained to the teacher that Arthur's nose was always bothering her. I want to change my seat. When Arthur played hide and seek, his friends always found him first. So anyway, Arthur decides to go to a rhinoplastic surgeon, okay? And she suggests that before he decides what's going to happen, they're going to try different noses. And I've just sort of divided these up. Among the noses that Arthur tries on are many that are easily recognizable to children, and a couple that are really pretty hard, like the armadillo nose, okay? And I've copied it exactly as it is in the book. It has the name so that kids who can read it, or maybe they'll get a hint if they're young enough and they're starting to know, let's see, you know, because everyone wants to say beaver when they see the rabbit's face, okay? But I hold it up, and there's just, it's sort of free flow now. Let's see, how do you like that? Do you like Arthur's nose the way it is, or do you like this better? Well, kids always have an opinion, okay? And they're telling me what's going on. You know, I like that, and so on. The koala bear, they think, is an ear. And I think it's really nice to have pictures of these whole animals when you do this, so that they can see, oh yeah, that is what a koala bear's nose looks like. Because when it's isolated, and the younger the children are developmentally, the younger they are, the more difficult time they have with an isolated piece. And with the goat, and you know, and they often say something else, they say, no, look at that stuff under its chin, you know, what's that? Isn't that a beard? Oh, it's a goat, okay. And a toucan, that seems pretty tough, but things like rhinoceros, how do you like that? Gee, you know. And when you do the elephant, okay, now there's Arthur's nose. What do you think of the elephant nose? Do you like that better? How's that? And someone always says, I think it should be the elephant nose. Well, let's think about this. Arthur's nose is already bumping into Francine. What's going to happen when the elephant's nose is hanging down? Oh, yeah, he may trip over it, you know, and so on and so forth. So we just try on all the different noses and have a free-form discussion about what's going on here. One of my favorites, the alligator. How do you like that? So then I go back to the book, which is paper-clipped. Arthur's friends waited outside to see which nose he would choose. I wonder what his new nose will look like. Do you think it'll look better than mine? I'm going to miss Arthur's old nose. Maybe he won't want to play with us. I can't believe it. It's Arthur. Wow. Arthur hadn't changed his nose at all. I tried on every nose there was. I'm just not me without my nose, said Arthur. It's a nice nose. I still want to change my seat at school. There's a lot more to Arthur than his nose. And there are a lot more books about Arthur. Okay, so, and this is just really easily and transportable and stuff. But a woman who works in the library liked this story a lot, and so she just Xeroxed the pieces for the pattern, and she made it into a flannel story. I mean, it could be a flannel story. It also could be made as an overhead story. And for overhead stories, you can just Xerox the pieces and then run it through a Thermofax machine, whatever those machines are that make the copies, and then using those same Sharpie pens or the pens that you can color on overheads with, you can color them in. And I've done like Max's Christmas by Rosemary Wells. I've done that because there are lots of small pieces, and done all those pieces on the overhead, and then I just put them on the overhead. And that gets me to the overhead for my next story, which is ABC by Tana Hoban. ABC is an alphabet book. Okay, I guess I need to show you the book, right? So you understand why I did it this way. It shows silhouettes, okay? And so this is the G page and the H page, and so on. And what I've done is on my list, I have underlined the object that is in the book and in my box. And then some of them, there's at least one thing from the book for each letter of the alphabet. And then I went to a place called TP Toys in Pocatello, which sells, it sells things for teacher supplies, but it also sells party items, real cheap gift things, gag presents and stuff like that, where you can get, now, don't look here, okay? Oh, wait a second, I keep forgetting with this one. Okay, what is that? Okay, where you can get things like this. It won't shoot. You know, this is a gag thing that you pull and it shoots. Well, this one doesn't. Okay. And so I've used this with kids, and I loved it because I had, I have a thing up like this, and then I put things on here, and you can do it in alphabetical order or so on and so forth. And I have, this box is just unbelievable. A broom, and, ooh, yarn. And it's amazing what shows up. And lots of kids, when they look at the book, will realize that you're seeing the opposite color. In the text, you're seeing the white on the black, and you're seeing the vice versa, because you're looking at, I guess, a negative here. And here you're looking at whatever you're looking at. Don't ask me what it is. Okay, so I just have this box full of junk. An X-ray, and that's all I can tell you. Oh, this works well. For little pieces, I put them in a plastic bag because I needed several jacks, and that I did for rice also. There's another feather that's in there, but there's the rice. And one of the things they had in here was dots. Well, gosh, how do you do dots? Who wants to be fiddling with all those pieces? So, well, they're all stuck together. There, those are better dots. They look out of focus. But anyway, so this is a whole box of things. Shell, yeah. And things like I needed an apple, you know, and this is just from a plastic keychain. I think it cost 10 cents. So that's what I got, because the silhouette would be good. So that's ABC. And I did this in the public library last fall, and the kids, I used this, and then they just sort of played with it, and they really had a good time, and trying to match things up and find out, you know, what page it went to. And some kids knew what the beginning letter was, and other kids didn't, but they all helped each other. And then just for boxes, this is just a book called Boxes, Boxes by Fisher, okay? Different kinds of boxes. Now this is getting back to the importance of themes. And then the pop-up book, How Many Bugs in a Box? This one came out a couple years ago. There's one tough bug there. How many bugs are in the polka dot of the box? 2 polka dotted bugs. Okay, and it goes through. Here's 5 mellow yellow fish bugs. And then this story, which I've used with infants and toddlers, Now We Can Go by Ann Jonas. It's just real simple. And it's a simple one to do for an object story. You need a blue box and a red bag and the lists of toys that are in there. And it just starts with, wait a minute, I'm not ready. I need my bag, my ball. And so she takes everything out and moves it from the blue box to the red bag until everything's in the red bag and then ready to go. And it works really well with infants. Anything like that that's real big and they can see and they see the changing and stuff, they're fascinated by that kind of stuff. I know it sounds strange that you could really have the attention of really many 4-month-old kids for 20 minutes at a time. I work with a teen parent program at our high school, and I go in about every 2.5 to 3 weeks, and I do a Book Babies program. And it's really interesting. You know, I do it once a month at the library, but now that I'm doing that, I have more exposure and I get to do more things. And the more I do it, the more fascinated I've become about the ability to do different things. At the very youngest age, I mean, you know, little infants are not focusing, though, you know, when you get parents to do things with chanting and changing of sound, like in the thump-thump from one side to the other, or you know, one voice is up here and it's changing and stuff, and they see a little movement, they tend to focus, you know, what's going on. And when kids are just starting to do tracking with their eyes, you can watch them, and it's unbelievable. It really is fun. Turtle Tale, I didn't bring all the pieces because Turtle Tale's by Frank Ash, okay? And a real simple story. He can't decide if his head needs to be in or out. And so he puts it in and he goes along the river and he bumps into logs and he bumps into a rock. I mean, he falls off a log and he rolls down the hill. And he gets there and he can't drink because his head is in. So then he decides a wise turtle would leave his head out. So he leaves his head out and it rains and you know, there's no sun. And then the fox comes along and the fox is just about to get him when he thinks maybe a wise turtle will sometimes leave his head out and sometimes pull it in. And this story really, I was given this turtle, which made me think of it, because you can put all your hands in here and we can swim, but he can pull his head in. And I have a fox puppet too, but all you really need is, I have my handy list, a turtle puppet, an apple, because it falls on his head, a stuffed rabbit, any, you know, old toy stuffed rabbit that one of your kids or a friend has, a rock big enough for the turtle to bump into, a log, just a log that he can fall over, just like I had all this stuff for possum possum in my house, the possum in the house. I collect all this junk. And then you just need like a plastic fish and a fox puppet. And just doing that, you just really only need two hands to do it, and you just lay some things out. And first it's going to have the apple on its head, it's going to bump into the rock, then it climbs onto the log, falls down the hill, and so on and so forth. And it's real easy to tell. And then kids can do it too. You just give them the stuff, and then they can do it. So that's Turtle Tail. And then this is How Do I Put It On by Watanabe, and he's actually all dressed. It's amazing how kids love to dress animals or dolls, whatever. And I mean from like 2-year-olds on up to 7-year-olds. If I was working with kids who were in 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade, he would have shoelaces on, okay? Because one of the things they do is practice tying shoes. But since I work mostly with kids 6 and under, and I wanted to tell this story without having to tie his shoe all the time, and shoelaces were out when I put this together, so I loved it. I left his shoes off. Anyway, he starts off undressed, and he tries everything on and puts it on wrong. And then he puts it on right. And then at the end, he puts everything on all at once. But like when he puts his hat on, how do I put on my cap? Like this? No, and then like this. In the shoe, in the story, he puts it on. He has both shoes on his ears. And it's taken from this story. And I tried to match the pieces as much as I could. That's as best as I could do for the hat, and so on. And then the shoes. Right, I just show the book. I said, this is a story of how do I put it on. And I'll put that down. With little kids, I sit on it. Okay, out of sight, out of mind, because if it's sitting there, babies and toddlers will go up and grab it. So I just sit on it, and it's gone. It's real simple. Okay, and then at the end, after he's tried everything on and knows how to do it right, then you put everything on, And you can, with older kids, they can help you. You can give an item of clothing to each kid, after he's put it on, decide the right way. Okay, later will you put the hat on, will you put the pants on, whatever. As I said before, I like a lot of involvement. Okay, the pig's picnic is this story here. It was a perfect day for a picnic. Mr. Pig tried to look his best. He was going to ask Miss Pig to go on a picnic with him. Gee, I hope she says yes, thought Mr. Pig. But he was worried, so he took a flower to impress her. Okay, so he is a puppet, and he needed some permanent things. He needed to have the basket and the bow tie on. Okay, so those are just stuck on with hot glue. And then I've just hot glued this little gingham thing in there. Then for the flower, well, you're right. How's that pig going to carry that flower in his arm? Well, I took an ice pick and I ran it through his arm. And then I took a plastic straw and moved the straw up and down until I had enough room. Then I made it a little bit bigger, and then I put the straw in and ran the hot glue gun down it, so it's glued on both ends, and the straw is permanently in there, so that when I want to put that in, it just stays there. Okay, so he has that, and he goes along. So I have a crib sheet, right? And he meets each of his friends, and he meets his friend, Mr. Fox, and Mr. Fox says, "Let me give you some advice, Mr. Pig. Borrow my beautiful tail." So he did. And Mr. Pig felt beautiful. And he continues on, and the lion says, "Borrow my beautiful hair." And these are just held on with Velcro strips that are glued onto him, okay? And that's how the hair's made. And he meets the zebra. And the zebra says, "Borrow my beautiful stripes." And even though this takes a while with kids to get the stripes on him, they're so fascinated that it doesn't matter. It takes a little while. I just tuck one end under. Oh, you know, and some kids saying, ooh, you put it across his butt. That's right. Just like a zebra. It's amazing. I'm not horrified, which is amazing too, right? Okay, so he has his stripes on. And he goes and he knocks on Miss Pig's door. Miss Pig, would you like to go on a picnic with me? Oh, you horrible monster, you get out of here right this minute, or I'm going to call Mr. Pig, and he'll come and get rid of you. So Mr. Pig runs away. He runs back to his friends, and he returns the stripes to who? Oops, to the zebra, right? And the hair to the lion, and the tail to the fox, and then he hurries back to Miss Pig's house again, and he knocks on the door. Miss Pig, will you go on a picnic with me? Oh, Mr. Pig, I'd love to go on a picnic with you. Why, just now there was this horrible monster here, and I scared him away. Let's go on the picnic. And all the way to the picnic, Miss Pig told him about the monster, and Mr. Pig listened very quietly. Which is sort of, that wasn't exactly the words, but it was close enough, okay? And so he works real well. And with him, I realized after I made him that he was so strong and kids were so attracted to him that what I did is really to make the impact is I've almost always read the book either before or after I've done this. Very often I've read the book first and then I've done it, because then, you know, if you haven't done it for a while, you remember the story, okay? And that helps. I like all these things that sort of help you. But they really like seeing the illustrations also, and I think that's probably because I use the book so much that they want to see the illustrations. It's like, how close did she come to what the book really looked like? And my last story is Poppy the Panda, which I talked about. And really, to tell this whole story, I would have to be sitting in a chair because it's multi-hand, and he doesn't start off with a pot on his head. But I would be sitting in a chair, and Poppy would be on my lap. And I start off by reading this book. And then I'll just do a couple pieces of it. Katie O'Keefe had a toy panda. His name was Poppy. Katie took Poppy with her everywhere she went, and Katie would never think about going to bed unless Poppy came too. One night, Katie told Poppy it's time for bed, but Poppy refused to go. I can't sleep when I'm unhappy. If I was sitting, because he's so big, I can't sleep when I'm unhappy. Why are you unhappy? Well, said Poppy, everyone has something nice to wear but me. Your doll has a fancy dress, and your soldier has a fine suit and hat. Why, even your cat has a collar. But what do I have to wear, said Poppy. Nothing at all. Well, I'll have to see if I can do something about that, said Katie. So she went over and she took her doll's dress off, and she tried it on. And this is just a doll dress, a little girl's dress that I got at a store. And just for simplicity of putting it on, I just split the seam up the back, okay? Because it didn't matter whether it was shut or not, just like that. Remember, this is just for looks for the audience. It doesn't have to work exactly right. And there she is trying it on. But Poppy wouldn't budge. I hate it, he said. I'm a boy panda, and I will not wear a dress. So then she went to her closet and she took out the roller skates and she tried them on. And they do fit on him somewhat, and he falls down the top of the stairs, okay? And then in the front hall closet, she tries on an umbrella. People will laugh at me, said Poppy. People do not wear umbrellas. And he tries on shoes, and they're like the shoes in the book. They're the same kinds of shoes. And he says, they don't even match, as he's looking down at his feet. I have got to sit. I can't possibly do this. without perching on something. I need all my hands. And this is like the zebra thing, kind of. Oopsie. You know, you're wrapping them up. And it doesn't matter if it takes a while or you drop it. Kids are fascinated with this. Okay. Poppy, he should be more covered than that. He looks down and he says, "Why, Kitty, you've made me look like a package." And so they go into her room disgusted, and her mom comes in and says, "Katie, you're still up. Why haven't you gone to bed?" "It's all Poppy's fault," she told her mother. "He won't go to bed unless he has something to wear." And so her mother takes out of her hair a beautiful blue ribbon, and she ties it around his neck. And Katie takes Poppy over to the mirror to let him look at it. And Poppy loves it. And then he says, "I'm ready for bed." And they both go to sleep, and the mom turns out the light. Okay? And then he looks just like Poppy at the end. You yourselves are some of your best help. A lot of my ideas come from talking to other people. We have a fairly large staff at our library. It doesn't matter whether you're in a school or a library. There are other people there who will have ideas. We share all materials. If you have a bunch of different people doing story hours like we do, one person puts the story hour together. If one person's working with younger kids, they may have a few different books that they use that would be more appropriate for younger children, but there's no point in reinventing the wheel. And the people who you know will give you lots of good ideas. Lots of these ideas are because I've stood in the staff room saying, "I want to do something with a story, but I just can't figure out what to do." And someone says, "What about?" And another person says, "What about? What about?" And it may be the third "what about" or a combination of any of those that you really get your ideas from. It's important to talk to each other and get ideas. And those patterns will be available here at the reference desk. Okay, thank you very much for coming.